The Department of Defense has failed its annual audit and cannot fully account for its more than $824 billion budget. The findings of the 2024 fiscal review are known as a disclaimer of opinion, meaning there was insufficient information provided for auditors to ensure financial statements are, in fact, accurate. The Pentagon's comptroller and chief financial officer Michael McCord said the findings were not a surprise, but said even though the department failed overall, progress is being made since the requirement to perform the annual audits went into effect back in 2018. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin reiterated the department's commitment to do away with waste and increase efficiency. Both say the goal is to have a clean audit by the year 2028. Well, Department of Government Efficiency's incoming co-leader, Vivek Ramaswamy, shared his vision for cost-cutting and saving tax dollars over the weekend.
We want to go right in through executive action to do the failures of the executive branch that need to be addressed. Because the dirty little secret right now, Maria, is the people we elect to run the government, they're not the ones who actually run the government.
Ramaswamy explained rescinding regulations enacted by past executive orders will allow leadership to downsize the size that administrative state, that is, without Congress.
This is about restoring self-governance and accountability in America as well. Elected leaders, if they make the wrong decisions, voters have a great choice. You can vote them out and remove them. Most of the people making these decisions, from healthcare to the Department of Defense, are failing on effectiveness because they have no accountability.
Ramaswamy pledged to bring sweeping change with their work concluding no later than July 4th of 2026, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Greg.
Well, part of Elon Musk's initiative to streamline the United States administrative state will likely focus on overregulation. Susan Dudley worked in the George W. Bush administration and then went on to found the Regulatory Studies program at George Washington University.
Sounds like part of its mission will be reducing regulations. And I think there are opportunities there. We've never done a good job at looking at regulations that are in effect and evaluating whether they're really achieving what they were designed to do.
Other critics and policy experts hope the new department will address issues like improper payments, extravagant spending on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and funding unusual projects. Musk has also expressed openness to scrutinizing federal spending on transgender research and DEI programs. Speaking of government spending, NASA is also facing criticism for allocating millions of taxpayer dollars to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives amid budget overruns. According to the Daily Caller, the agency staff is begging Musk to clean house after millions of American taxpayer dollars have been spent on an agenda backed by liberal ideology. From 2020 to 2024, NASA funded grants to universities and consulting firms for programs focused on environmental justice and inclusive practices, including $7 million for minority-serving institutions and $3.3 million to Booz Allen Hamilton for DEI analytics, and over $2 million went to LMI Consulting in 2023 to embed DEI in NASA's operations. Critics argue these expenditures divert funds from the core space exploration objectives. Tim?
Greg, a federal appeals court on Friday temporarily limited the scope of a ruling that called a Louisiana law requiring public schools to post the Ten Commandments in all classrooms next year unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals motion paused a lower district court's decision that temporarily prevented that law. Hence, the posting of the Ten Commandments will be able to proceed in school districts not involved in the legal challenge. Now, the law requires public schools to prominently display the commandments in classrooms by January 1st. It was signed earlier this year by Governor Jeff Landry. Now, Louisiana AG Liz Murrill was happy with the ruling and added, quote, "We strongly disagree with the lower court's ruling. School boards are independently elected, and we look forward to working with districts not involved in this lawsuit to implement that law." Mike?
Tim, President-elect Trump's team is reportedly making a list of military officers who were part of the 2021 Biden administration's chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal to examine what decisions were made by whom and why. According to Breitbart News, the plan is to look at military officers' roles and the decisions they made during the withdrawal with the possibility of holding people accountable. Gold Star father Stephen Nakui, whose Marine son Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui was killed during the withdrawal, spoke out in September about the GOP report that was released on the withdrawal.
What is good, though, about this report is that it's finally out. There's no more question. There's no more, hey, this is a conspiracy or whatever. This is out in a chronological order, and everyone can see, the failures that led to this, the botched withdrawal.
Cooey said one big surprise in the report was that the Afghan government was reaching out to the Biden administration for military support and got none. I'm pleased to welcome the founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, Matt Staver. Matt, thanks for joining us for Victory News today.
Thank you. My pleasure to be with you.
Matt, so the Ten Commandments has been making its way back into public spaces. Bring us up to date on the challenge to the state of Louisiana posting the Ten Commandments in school and how some schools will be allowed to display them while others won't.
Well, the interesting thing is that this federal judge issued a very lengthy opinion and issued an injunction against the Ten Commandments. But it really, I don't think, has any basis to be upheld on appeal because a significant change has happened in 2022 when the Supreme Court, in the case of Shurtleff versus City of Boston, a case that I argued we won 9-0, and Coach Kennedy case, collectively overruled the 1971 Lemon versus Kurtzman decision. That set a new landscape for First Amendment issues regarding religious displays, including the Ten Commandments, because it was that case that was often used to strike down religious symbols and displays, including the Ten Commandments. That is no more. And in fact, the Supreme Court says we need to now interpret the First Amendment according to its historical purpose and intent. So I think that decision will be overturned. But the good news is, even in the meantime, that decision has been limited only to the school districts that are involved in that case, which is only a few. And the rest of the schools in Louisiana will be able to start posting these Ten Commandment displays effective January 1 while this case is ongoing. So that's a good development that just occurred.
Great to hear that. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has a long history of supporting cases that favor the killing of the unborn children. But tell us about your case with Sandra Merritt and its progress.
Well, Sandra Merritt has been in this case, both in the civil case with regards to Planned Parenthood and also now in a criminal case that has been going on for years. She was one of the two undercover investigators, along with David Daleiden, that filmed these individuals bragging about how they would, frankly, violate the law, change the abortion procedures so that they could harvest intact baby body parts and then sell those on the open market for research. She should be lauded instead of persecuted by Planned Parenthood and by the criminal courts. But now there's a case before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that actually involved Project Veritas. This was before O'Keefe left Project Veritas while he was still there. And it's regarding Oregon's law regarding what's called surreptitious recording someone when they don't know they're being recorded, which is something investigative journalists do all the time. The lower court found that that violated the First Amendment to require both parties to consent. Most of the states only require one party to consent, the person who is recording. But that state required both parties. That was overturned. It's now being reconsidered by the entire court. If the court ultimately sides with the lower court, it could have a big impact on our Sandra Merritt case.